want them to be better men, better husbands, better sons, better employers, employees, whatever, when they walk out those doors.
I think success is when my girls go and give it their all, 110%.
Hello, Golden Eagles, and welcome to the Perch. I'm your host, Peyton.
And Luke.
And today we are interviewing our boys and girls basketball coaches. What core values shape your coaching philosophy?
All right, thank you. I would say core values that shape my philosophy would be just teaching our kids. It's not just about what we're doing X's and O's wise on the court, but hopefully we're teaching them how to become young women once they graduate Staunton River High School, and just having, good morals, character, and just teaching them, things that they need for the real world.
I think for me and for us, we talk about hard work, sacrifice, passion, trust, and service, and really just the things that kind of the same idea that we want them to be able to do, not just as players, but we want them to be better men, better husbands, better sons, better employers, employees, or whatever, when they walk out those doors. So just an overall improvement, not just athletically, but in life as well.
How do you define success for your team beyond the win-loss record?
I think success is when my girls go and give it their all, 110%, no matter the score. I want them to just play so hard. So if someone's watching us, they don't know if we're up 20 or if we're down 20. We want to keep that same energy no matter what. And another big thing for me is I want them to feel like a family. So if we're working hard and we're treating each other with respect and we have a good family atmosphere, then I think that's a success for our team.
I think both of us have had the opportunity to be able to do this long range. And, we want them to play hard. We want them to be great students and great people. But I think a lot of the times the success I see is what happens after school, when I can see them on the social media with their kids and their wives and their families, or they come back and see me and just tell me what's going on, and they're doing well in life. I think that's a huge way for us to measure success.
What is your approach of balancing discipline with player empowerment?
I would say sometimes when I think discipline, if I'm thinking of this the right way, because first of all, when I'm thinking about discipline as far as basketball is, being disciplined to do what you're told to do, but kind of, staying within what you're supposed to be doing to kind of help your team. And yes, we want, like you said, that player empowerment, but it's going to be others before yourself, but still, working hard to keep that, the discipline of, of what our team is supposed to be doing. Not sure if I really answered that correctly.
Do your job, do what you're supposed to do, what we ask you to do. But within that, there may be different ways that you get that job done. And we have certain expectations of how we want the guys to play or to actually approach things on the floor, off the floor. But they're going to do that differently, and that's the empowerment part. You have to be who you are. So I think it's important to have both, have a good mixture.
How do you adapt your coaching to different groups of athletes?
That's something I think as a coach you have to look at every year, because every group is different. You have different pieces. You have to sometimes change what you might normally do. You may have to change your offense and defense depending on the players you have on your team. You also have to know what motivates different athletes. Some kids, you can get them hyped up by yelling. Some of them you got to, be a little bit more positive, or talking to them one-on-one. But there's a lot that goes into it. You can't just do the same thing for every kid every year.
I heard a college coach say one time, a college basketball coach, he had coached at high school and he coached at the college level, obviously. And he said he always thought that college was hard. I mean, college was easier because he could go out and pick players to fit his system. And he said in high school, whoever walks in the gym, that's what he's got to work with. So, you kind of have a philosophy and an idea, but then you also have to see who comes in the doors and, what can they do. And, I think between us, there's probably not much of anything that we haven't tried in the last 15, 20 years, just because we've had so many different types of athletes. And you got to be flexible.
How do you help players improve individually while still prioritizing team chemistry?
Yes, that's a good one. Getting girls to improve, I would say individually. Some of that has to happen outside of just your everyday practice. You can ask them to, come in and get extra work. But when they're getting that individualized attention, still working on things that still goes along with the team, what helps build our team. The team chemistry is something that we preach in our program a lot, playing together, playing for each other. Even though, yes, we're playing for each other, but we still want to work hard and when you get better yourself, you're also helping your team become better.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we do too. We also talk about the idea that the off season is made to make players better, and the in season is made to make teams better. And so, in that off season, because you've got just a revolving door of people because they're playing other sports and doing other things, whoever's there, you're working with them and trying to get them better. And then when you come together in the fall and in the winter, that's when you start to really build that team chemistry.
What skills do you consider most essential at the high school level, and how do you teach them?
For me, the skills are not always just, can they dribble, can they shoot well? But when I think about skills, you need to be on a high school team, you need to be coachable. You need to have good communication skills, because if you're coachable and you can communicate with your teammates, you're going to be a good player. You're going to fit in. Because if you can adapt to what your coaches are telling you, and being willing to try, have to have a positive attitude, willing to try what your coaches are asking. Those are some of like the top skills that you need. And then the rest is going to fall into play, I feel like.
Some people don't think it's a skill. Playing hard is a skill, and playing hard all the time. And I think that is huge. You can do a lot with a player that will come in and play hard every day, practice, game, workout, whatever it is. They're going to get better. They're going to improve their skill. They're going to improve everything that they do just because they do it at a high level. So playing hard, and I'm going to say it, and Luke's heard it. I love guys that have dog in them. Mm-hmm. I like a little dog. And, just tell our guys a lot of times, dog don't care. And you just go out there and you just play whatever the score or whoever's out there, you just go after it the best you can. And I think that's a skill to have too.
Yeah, and that's a skill that you just, I don't know, it's one of those things I always say you can't teach, it just, the kids just have it, and it's a good thing.
How do you support multi-sport athletes during the season?
For me, and I think about in season and out of season, I guess. So I'm going to start, I know it says in season, but a little bit with the out of season. We try to go like opposite days of, volleyball, softball, try to work around different times, because at our school we do have a lot of athletes that are multi-sport athletes. So that's important. And then hopefully, to me, if we're, as long as when you're in season, basketball, you're put that first, but then you also can be still working on your other sports and working on your other skills that you need for your other sport outside of that. Because that's really what it takes to be good, is that you are working on your game all year round.
We do a lot of the same things. We kind of work our schedules around, and we do a lot with football. We even had some years where we've actually lifted at the same time as football to get more guys in the weight room. I try to get to some of the games out of season when I can, that they're playing other sports. We got a really unique thing here. Most of the people in our athletic department, especially basketball and football and baseball, we either all went to school together or played together or coached them. Unfortunately, Kim and I are getting on the end. We're more we coached than we played with. But Kim and I went to school together, coached big divers at the middle school. We all went to school together. I coached Fazell, I coached Jacob Divers. So when we sit down and start looking at things like that, we all want the same thing. Mm-hmm. We want to see each other be successful. So we're going to work together to do what it takes to help these kids out.
Can you share an example of a player you've helped grow significantly?
I don't know if I can even think of just one. I feel like we've helped so many kids. Not all of your players are going to want to go to college to play at the next level, but then we have some that have, which is really neat. So when I think about that, thinking about our girls that are playing in college right now and some that we've had playing in the past, we've had a couple D1 players, some D2, and some at the Division III level. So that's always exciting. But I don't want to start naming names because I feel like if I name names and I'm going to leave somebody out, and I just feel like and sometimes when we think about players we've helped significantly, I don't think about just basketball, but I think about the players that I've had that when they first started basketball, they had maybe a really high temper. And by the time they graduated, they learned how to control themselves. They became good players. They became leaders, and not only in the basketball world, but some of them are teachers now and coaches at other schools. And they're just, to me, in my book, that's girls that we've helped, not just in basketball, but in their life.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to name drop here. I'm thinking of a couple right off the top of the head, but I can think of one in particular that he didn't play in college. That wasn't his goal. He had some ups and downs here, had some years where he and I didn't get along. I don't think he liked me for a while because I was trying to install a little discipline in him. And he ended up having a good career here, a great senior year, was all district. But he has gone on to be very successful as a husband. The other thing that I think is great that he has done is he's taken a lot of the guys that have came out of here kind of under his wing, and the place where he works, he brings them in and recommends them for jobs. So this place where this guy works, there's probably about 6 guys working there that I coached that played for me, and it's kind of him taking care of the team even beyond basketball. And that was a guy when he was a freshman. There were people saying they didn't know if he'd graduate. So sports can do so much for our kids, and he's an example.
And that concludes this episode of The Perch. Join us next week for our semester wrap-up.